Conversation, people in the UK will be offered £350 a month to open their homes to people fleeing the war in Ukraine. It's for 6 months and it's part of the government's Homes for Ukraine scheme, which asks you to house a refugee for a period of at least, as I say, 6 months. This is in addition to Ukrainian refugees with passports who will also be able to apply for UK visas online from Tuesday. It means that refugees heading to Britain will not have to go to a visa application centre. I hope I've got all of that right, but my next guest will certainly put me right if I haven't. It is Harjap Singh, Bhangal, who is an immigration lawyer and a good friend of this programme. Very good to see you again, Harjap. First of all, your overall take on, first of all, the latest from Michael Gove.
It almost seems as if people who are doubting it, it's sort of an incentive, a sweetener for them. If you do want to open your houses up to Ukrainian refugees, then we will give you £350 a month per person for your troubles. A lot of people saying, well, hold on, why are we giving this to migrants? But the fact is, it's not going to the migrant. It's going to a British landlord or a British homeowner.
Well, I said Damien Green, the former Deputy Prime Minister, was on the programme yesterday, and I put it to him that it may just be that, unlike in Poland, and we just heard from the Deputy Prime Minister of there, that there may be quite a few people out there who actually don't want to do it. And they don't want people, even if they're from Ukraine, coming here. So they've got to be almost bribed. That doesn't seem very comfortable.
I think I saw a poll yesterday, whereas 52% of people were saying that the UK hadn't done enough to help Ukrainian refugees, but only 9% would be willing to offer them housing. So I think the public, taking into view of that, the polls, the government maybe thought, well, hold on, perhaps we're not incentivising people. Perhaps an incentive will sway them. A bribe.
These are tough times for everybody, energy crisis, the rest of it.
And it might help pay the bills, because if we look at, one extra room on the electricity and gas, it might not be as much as £350 a month. If you're going to get almost £1,100–1,200 a month, or a quarter, that could pay your bills. Yeah. And it could help people in these tough times.
OK. What's your take on and Isabel put it to the Deputy Prime Minister of Poland, and I was just discussing it with Dame Pauline Neville-Jones, that MI5 are saying we've still got to have these visas, we've still got to have these checks, not because Ukrainian refugees aren't genuine and aren't good people, but that the baddies can sneak under the radar.
I think checks are important. They've always been a part of what the British visa system, so the biometric system, which means photographing and fingerprinting, has been going on for quite a long time now, almost for 2008, 2009. So that's important. Alternatively as well, we have to do DBS checks on the people who are going to house people. So people with histories of fraud or benefits fraud in the past, or, with criminal records, say with child offences, might not be ideal to be housing these people, or offences against women and the elderly. So that will work both ways, and there must be a sort of service to match it. And my only sort of thing is, are we doing this too quickly? Is this another one of the schemes announced in haste? Do we have the infrastructure for it at the moment? We can't even run visa application centres on time, and we saw the shambles that's been happening in a couple of weeks. People being in Poland, applying in Poland, asked to go to Kiev to do their fingerprints, return there from where they've fled. And so we don't really have the facilities for this. I'm just wondering how it's going to work. And a lot of it is going to depend on volunteers and voluntary organisations who are preparing the groundwork already for this.
That's the last thing I expected you to say this afternoon in the conversation, that maybe we are rushing this project, because the key criticism that everybody has made is that we're not doing enough, and these poor souls are risking their lives in Ukraine and they're desperate to get out, and over 1.5 million are there in Poland. You're saying that for whatever reasons, political, PR, that the government may be running ahead of the game.
They're not using a system that's in place and that people have touted for a long time. We have an asylum system. We already have a system. We don't need this. Why can't we just grant them asylum? We can't grant them asylum because they have to be on UK shores to do that. There's no system for people to claim asylum from abroad or where they are. Also, the public have already, we hear the argument so many times and on this channel, why can't they stay in safe third countries? But in this case, it seems to be OK, we're not using that argument. Or those people who shout that are very quiet this time round. It doesn't seem that they have a voice on this. And a lot of people from countries where there are wars, such as Somalia, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, are now looking up and thinking, well, hold on, that wasn't what was being said when we were told to stay in France, or we were told to stay in Spain. And if we hadn't had this scheme, then we've got to look at the fact that perhaps we would have had Ukrainians coming in on dinghies too to join their relatives here. And we don't have a system for that to handle all of that. So the system should have been already in place in France, or an asylum centre abroad, maybe set up in Poland. But that hasn't been done, and instead we've done this. As with anything with the Home Office, it always ends in a shamble. We've seen Windrush, we've seen the student visas, we've seen a points-based system that effectively wasn't a points-based system, we've seen the fake colleges that were opened and shut down. And I just wonder whether the Home Office actually know what they're doing, and have they consulted enough people in order to do this? And have they done these checks? Are we told how long this is going to take? We haven't been able to do a simple fingerprint and operation or visa system, within a couple of weeks. Is this not going to end well? Probably not, is my estimate, but the Home Office always have the opportunity to surprise me and yourself.
Well, and number 10 also has the capacity to surprise, because you've got Priti Patel and immigration ministers working in the Home Office and out of the Home Office, and then the Prime Minister appoints Richard Harrington, a former Member of Parliament, pops him in the House of Lords and says, you're now in charge of it.
Well, that just goes to show that the confidence the Prime Minister perhaps didn't have in the current regime, in the current scheme, where he's decided and said to Michael Gove as well, you jump in on this, you handle this, this is not working out well for us. Obviously, it's not doing well in the PR sort of thing. 52% we know already against and think that the government are not doing enough. So something needs to be done. Boris Johnson's been very vocal against Vladimir Putin about this, and obviously he feels, he needs to back that up. I don't know why they feel that they need to compensate. Perhaps it's because they're being exposed for the amount of money and the checks that lack of checks are done to let the billionaires in. Let me put it into context. When we're taking ages to let Ukrainian refugees in, Russian billionaires were given visas in 10 days without any security checks, just looking at a bank statement.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the case, the Home Office has got the facility to let them in. And as for giving visas and biometrics and sending people to a centre, if you've got enough money, Alistair, the Home Office operate a lorry where they've got the whole system in. It comes to your front doors. A lot of footballers use this system, international footballers, to extend their visas and their work permits. The lorry comes to your house, outside your house, does all your biometrics in about 30 minutes, goes away, takes the processing there. So the facilities are there. It's just about whether the Home Office is competent enough or whether it wants to spend the money to do this.
Sure. I, funnily enough, was having exchanges of messages with a very dear friend of mine last night, John Reid, Lord Reid, who famously was the Home Secretary, who said this department is not fit for purpose. That was decades ago. I think you are saying clearly, but I want you to confirm it, that you still think on immigration, maybe other things as well, but the Home Office is not fit for purpose. And secondly, if the answer to that is yes, is there an argument not just for having a temporary minister like Lord Harrington in there, but actually a separate government department? Because immigration is incredibly sensitive politically, and people, particularly post-Brexit, have genuine concerns about it. So A, still not fit for purpose. B, separate department?
Definitely not fit for purpose. Every year, not just me or Lord Reid, but the House of Commons themselves, they do a Select Affairs Committee report on it, and it says it's not fit for purpose. It's almost like having a cracked wall in your house, and your house is falling down, but we decide to paint over it instead of knocking the wall down. We need to knock the wall down and build it all over again. We definitely need separate departments. We need specialist people who know what they're doing in relation to this, not gap year students making a decision and then finding out that the judge has ruled their decision wrong and it's overturned. And it's not just one decision, it's 50% of decisions appealed. So this Home Office does not know what it's doing. We need new people in charge. We need people who are definitely educated in the sphere in charge. And we need some sort of strategy, because whatever they're doing, it's definitely not working. And Lord Reid had the foresight then. And every year, the same thing is reiterated, yet nothing is done about it. There's been no infrastructure built, and we're just ploughing along, plodding along, and then saying, oh, it hasn't worked out again. So, it's like banging your head against a brick wall and then saying, oh, don't worry, we'll bang it again, and hopefully the brick wall knocked down, instead of wondering why our head's bleeding.
Yeah, absolutely. If you take France as a particular example, and my question really is, whose fault is it? Where people who did manage to get out of Ukraine, and that in itself is no easy task.
Not at all.
And were told that they could get dealt with on the visa front in France. First it was Calais, then it was Paris, then it became Lille. And these are people, men, women, kids, desperate to get out and get to safety. And our administration can't even work out with any precise authority where they've got to go.
Where they've got to go, how we've got to get them there, expected them to walk there, 50, 60 kilometres, no buses put on, no transport put on, no system. The announcement was made and it wasn't filtered out to the outposts, and the outposts didn't know how to deal with it. And that's exactly what might happen here as well with this scheme. If announcement's been made, we've got no infrastructure, the officers don't know, they're saying, well, we don't know, we haven't received instructions, sorry, you're going to have to go back here or go here. It's not sensitive to the issue, and it's not a solution. It seems almost like lip service, if we can say it. We're saying the right things, but when it comes to doing it, we just haven't got the facilities.
A work still sadly in progress. Harjap, always good to see you.
You too, Alex.
Thanks very much indeed for coming in. That's Harjap Singh, Bhangal immigration lawyer, with his thoughts not only on the immediate offer from Michael Gove and his people to Ukrainian refugees, but also on a Home Office, as my friend John Reid said all those years ago, that still does not appear to be fit for purpose.